The storm outside was loud, but not louder than the words that froze her blood. Tomorrow night, Don Vito dies. Lucia almost dropped the wine bottle. The dining room was alive with clinking glasses, cigar smoke, and laughter from men who never noticed her. To them, she was just a shadow in a black uniform, a black waitress meant to refill their cups and vanish again. Invisible, safe, forgettable. But tonight, her invisibility betrayed her. At the corner table, 3 men leaned in close. Their voices cut sharper than the rain hammering the glass windows. The first had a scar splitting his cheek, his tone low and certain. "At the gala, we strike. No mistakes this time." The second, with a flash of gold teeth in his grin, raised his glass. "A toast to Don Vito's final night on Earth." The third was younger, his hand trembling as he sipped. He didn't smile. His eyes flickered with doubt, but his silence made him complicit. Lucia steadied the tray in her hands, fighting the instinct to stare. Every detail branded itself into her mind, the scar, the teeth, the sweat. She told herself to move, to get away. Yet her body wouldn't listen. The scarred man's gaze lifted. For one terrifying second their eyes met. His lips curled, slow and deliberate. "She hears us," he said. Her throat tightened. She dropped her eyes to the floor, pretending to fuss with the tray, but her hands betrayed her. One glass rattled against another, the sound far too loud in the heavy silence. The gold-toothed man laughed, brushing it off. "Doesn't matter. Who listens to her?" They all chuckled except the youngest. He just stared at her, his unease far sharper than their arrogance. Lucia forced herself to walk away, every step feeling like glass splintering under her shoes. The kitchen door was just a few strides away. If she could make it there, she could breathe. She could pretend she hadn't heard a death sentence disguised as a toast. But before she could disappear, a shadow broke from the group. The youngest man followed. His shoes clicked against marble until he closed the distance. Lucia froze as his breath touched her ear. "Don't tell anyone," he whispered, voice cracking with both fear and threat. "Or you're next." And just like that, he was gone. The tray tilted in her shaking hands. A wine glass slid, crashed to the floor, shattering into red streaks across the tiles, like blood spilling before the body falls. Lucia's chest heaved, the storm outside pounding in time with her heart. She had come here invisible, but now she carried a secret too loud to stay hidden, too dangerous to escape. Lucia forced her hands to stop shaking as she cleared another table. Plates, glasses, silverware, all blurred in her vision, as if the room itself tilted. She told herself to keep moving, to pretend nothing had happened, but her mind replayed the whisper on a loop. "Or you're next." The restaurant roared with chatter, but in her chest, silence pressed like a weight. When she returned to the corner table, the 3 men were gone. Only their half-empty glasses remained. But something else waited for her. A folded napkin. Lucia picked it up, meaning to throw it away. But the moment she unfolded it, her stomach dropped. Scrawled in hurried black ink were 4 words. "You saw too much." Her pulse thundered. She crushed the napkin in her fist and shoved it into her apron. She wanted to scream, to run, but she couldn't. If she bolted, it would be obvious. If she spoke, no one would believe her. For the next hour she drifted through her shift like a ghost. Customers waved their hands for refills, co-workers barked for help, but none of it reached her. All she could feel was the napkin burning in her pocket. By closing time, the storm outside had worsened. Thunder rattled the roof as she slipped on her coat and stepped into the wet night. She pulled her phone from her pocket, planning to call her sister, just to hear a familiar voice. But the screen lit up with a new message. A photo. Her. Outside the restaurant, taken only minutes earlier. Another came seconds later. A close-up of her frozen mid-step, umbrella raised. And then a third. Tick-tock. Lucia's breath hitched. Her hand went numb around the phone. Someone was watching her, right now. She spun, scanning the rain-slicked street. Shadows shifted in doorways. Headlights streaked across puddles. Anyone could be holding a camera. Anyone could be waiting. For one reckless second, she thought of the police. But she already knew how that would go. A black waitress claiming she overheard a mafia murder plot? They'd laugh it off, chalk it up to paranoia. Worse, they might tip off the wrong person. Her chest tightened. She had nowhere to run. Cold night for fear, eh, ragazza? The voice cut through the storm. Smooth, deep, laced with amusement but carrying an edge sharp enough to slice. Lucia spun to see him. Don Vito. He leaned in the doorway of the restaurant, coat draped over broad shoulders, cigar glowing faintly between his fingers. He didn't look surprised to find her trembling in the rain. If anything, his eyes sparkled with curiosity. "You look," he said, exhaling smoke, "like someone who just saw a ghost." Lucia's mouth opened, but no words came. Her mind screamed, "Don't say it. Don't admit it." Don Vito stepped closer, his presence filling the narrow street. He didn't raise his voice, didn't threaten, but something in his gaze suggested he could see straight through her. "What did you hear?" he asked softly. "Tell me, ragazza." Lucia's lips parted, the words choking in her throat. She wanted to deny everything, to shake her head and run. But before she could, the night itself broke apart. A deafening crack split the air. The front window of the restaurant exploded, shards raining onto the pavement. Someone had fired a shot. Close. Too close. Lucia flinched, arms covering her. Head as glass scattered across the sidewalk. Don Vito barely moved. He only turned his head, cigar ember glowing steady in the dark, eyes narrowing toward the street. The warning had arrived, and Lucia realized this was only the beginning. The crack of the gunshot hadn't even faded when chaos swallowed the restaurant whole. Screams tore through the dining room. Patrons ducked, chairs overturned, crystal shattered against the floor. A second shot ripped past, blowing apart a decanter on the bar. Red wine streamed across the counter, spilling like blood onto the tiles. "Down!" one of Don Vito's guards barked, shoving a guest flat to the ground. Lucia's body moved before her mind caught up. She dove under a table, clutching the wooden leg as gunfire cracked through the storm outside. Splinters rained around her, the air thick with the metallic bite of gunpowder and the sharp tang of spilled alcohol. From her hiding place she saw polished shoes stride past. The scarred man, his pistol gleaming in the dim light. He wasn't firing wildly. He was searching, calculated, patient. A bullet punched through the table inches from her arm. She beat back a scream, pressing her lips shut so hard she tasted blood. Her heart hammered against the floor. The gold-toothed man laughed somewhere across the room, his voice booming over the chaos. "Bring her out! She heard it all!" Terror jolted her veins cold. They weren't just here for Don Vito. They wanted her silenced. Then a shadow swept across her. Don Vito himself had risen, calm where everyone else panicked. His cigar had died, but his gaze burned steady. "Get her out," he commanded, voice like thunder beneath the storm. Two of his men obeyed instantly. One yanked the table aside, the other grabbed her arm, hauling her to her feet. "Move, ragazza," he snapped, dragging her toward the kitchen. Bullets sparked against bottles. Glass rained down as they barreled past the bar. Lucia stumbled, half running, half dragged, her shoes slipping on the wine-slick floor. Behind them, Don Vito's men returned fire, muzzle flashes lighting the room in bursts. The kitchen was a blur of smoke and clattering pots as they shoved through. A trap door yawned open by the back wall, the cellar route. "In!" one barked. They pushed her down the narrow stairs, the smell of damp earth closing in. Thunder rattled above, each blast of gunfire muffled but unrelenting. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She fumbled it out, desperate for connection. for some sign this nightmare wasn't consuming her whole. The screen glowed. A new message. "You're already dead." Her grip failed. The phone slipped, clattering down the steps into the shadows. The glow of the message burned up at her from the dirt floor, cold and merciless. A sob rose in her throat, but she swallowed it down. Crying wouldn't save her. Nothing ordinary would ever save her again. "There's no going back," her mind whispered. "Normal is gone." Gunfire thundered overhead. Don Vito's men pressed her forward, deeper into the cellar's twisting passage. Their footsteps echoed off stone, mixing with the storm that roared like a beast above them. She stumbled, hands scraping against damp brick, lungs heaving with the stink of mildew and smoke. Every step felt like running away from the only life she had ever known. The stairwell ended. A rusted door groaned as one of the guards shoved it open. Cold air and rain slapped her face, dragging her into the night. They burst into a narrow alleyway. The storm poured down in sheets, thunder cracking directly overhead. And then, headlights blazed, blinding. A car engine roared to life, the beams slicing through the rain like knives. Lucia froze in the glare, her heart slamming against her ribs. The headlights seared through the rain, locking Lucia in place like a prisoner caught in a spotlight. But the guards flanking her didn't flinch. One raised his weapon, and the car's engine cut abruptly. A black sedan. Don Vito's driver stepped out, umbrella in hand, as if this chaos were nothing more than bad weather. "Inside," one of the guards barked. Lucia stumbled forward, shoved into the back seat. Don Vito slid in beside her, his coat dripping rain, his expression unreadable. Not a word passed between them during the long ride. The city blurred by in streaks of neon and thunder, each flash of lightning painting his sharp features in white fire. When the car finally pulled up to iron gates taller than any she had ever seen, her breath hitched. Beyond them sprawled a mansion glowing against the storm. Columns, marble steps, chandeliers burning through tall windows. The kind of place she'd only glimpsed in movies. Guards lined the entrance, men with rifles, men with eyes that lingered on her with curiosity and suspicion. Inside, the contrast struck her harder. Heat, polish, and wealth pressed in from every angle. A crystal chandelier cast fractured light over a wide hall. Velvet curtains drowned the thunder outside, but under the luxury lurked something else. Maps laid out on tables, walls lined with locked cabinets, polished pistols glinting beneath glass. It was less a home, more a fortress dressed in finery. Lucia's damp shoes squeaked against marble as she was guided into a side chamber. Don Vito finally spoke. His voice was calm, but it cut through the silence like a blade. "You heard something tonight you should not have, ragazza, and yet—" His eyes studied her as if weighing her soul. "You are still breathing." She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. Her throat was raw from smoke and fear. Two men entered behind him. One older, gray at the temples with sharp eyes that missed nothing, the consigliere. The other, younger but brash, a capo with an impatient snarl. "She's a liability," the capo spat. "She saw too much. Why bring her here?" "She's just a waitress," another chimed in, voice dripping with disdain. One frightened girl. His gaze flicked at her dark skin, his smirk thin. "An outsider." The words stung sharper than the gunfire had. Dismissal. Erasure. Don Vito raised a hand. Silence dropped instantly. His eyes didn't leave hers. "An outsider who did not scream, who did not run, who still stands." He leaned forward, smoke curling from the cigar he'd relit. "Courage like that cannot be ignored." The consigliere tilted his head, studying her. "Courage, or foolishness. Both can be useful." The capo scoffed but said no more. Lucia's legs threatened to give way under the weight of so many eyes. She didn't belong in this world of velvet and violence, And yet, standing there, she felt something stir beneath the fear, a spark she hadn't known she carried. Don Vito turned away, his voice a low rumble. The gala is tomorrow night. They will strike again, harder. He tapped ash into a silver tray. If she is lying, we'll know. If she is not, he exhaled, smoke curling like a serpent. She will stand with me. Lucia's heart lurched. Stand with you? She whispered. He faced her fully now, expression unreadable, dangerous, and yet oddly protective. Yes, he said. You'll stand with me at the gala, or you won't live to see morning. The mansion was unrecognizable by the following night. Where maps and weapons had covered the tables, now silk cloths and crystal vases shimmered. A grand hall stretched wide, chandeliers ablaze, violins swelling over the low hum of chatter. Masks, sequins, champagne flutes, wealth wrapped in gold leaf. But under the glamour pulsed something else. Tension, like a storm hiding under a clear sky. Lucia stood stiff beside Don Vito at the top of the marble steps. A gown had been thrust upon her, black silk that clung awkwardly, shoes too tight. Around her, eyes cut sharp and curious. Whispers slithered from behind masks. Who is she? Not family. An outsider, standing where she doesn't belong. She felt their gazes burn against her skin, the same dismissal she'd known all her life. But Don Vito's hand settled lightly on her arm, grounding her. Ignore them, he murmured. Only cowards whisper. The crowd flowed like a river, masks glinting, laughter echoing under chandeliers. And somewhere in that current, she knew, they were waiting. The three assassins. Her eyes scanned the crowd. A flash of gold teeth caught her breath. The scarred man lingered near the bar, his stance casual but his eyes never resting. The youngest hovered at the edge, mask tilted low, shoulders tense. Music swelled. Dancers spun across polished marble, their movements graceful, their shadows long. A tray of champagne glasses passed by, the crystal catching light. The scarred man lifted one. So did gold teeth. So did the boy. And then, Lucia heard it, a whisper cutting through music, echoing in her mind. A toast to Don. Vito's last night breathing. Her stomach dropped. She grabbed Don Vito's sleeve, her voice urgent but low. It's them. They're here. His eyes flicked over the crowd, sharp as blades. The mask of calm cracked just enough for steel to glint beneath. Then the toast began. Glasses lifted, laughter rose, and gunfire erupted. The scarred man's pistol flashed, the shot aimed straight for Don Vito. Lucia didn't think. She moved. She seized his arm, yanking him down just as the bullet split the air where his chest had been. The glass behind him shattered, raining crystal like shards of ice. Screams cut through the hall. Guests ducked, masks flying, champagne spilling across marble. Chaos churned, music collapsing into shrieks. Don Vito's men surged forward, weapons drawn from beneath their tailored jackets. Bullets cracked, echoing under chandeliers. The assassins scattered into the crowd, shadows within shadows. Lucia's pulse thundered. She pressed close to the floor beside Don Vito, the smell of gunpowder stinging her lungs. His hand gripped her shoulder, firm, almost approving. You saved me, he muttered, almost in disbelief. The scarred man fired again, but this time the bullet ricocheted off a column. Gold teeth cursed, shoving through panicked guests. The boy faltered, mask slipping, fear carved into his face. Lucia spotted him. For a second, their eyes locked. The same boy who had whispered her death sentence in the restaurant. His lips trembled. He turned and ran. The hall blazed with chaos. Tables overturned, chandeliers swaying as gunfire cracked. But the ambush had failed. Don Vito was alive. Then, piercing through the storm of screams and bullets, came a new sound. Sirens. Wailing, growing louder, closer. Don Vito's men stiffened, his jaw clenched, cigar snapped between his teeth. "Who tipped them off?" he growled. Lucia froze, heart hammering, because in that moment survival wasn't enough anymore. Now, trust itself was bleeding out across the marble floor. The echo of gunfire still clung to the chandeliers when the hall finally stilled. Masks lay abandoned across the marble floor. Champagne staining silk gowns, and the sharp smell of smoke lingered in the air. 2 of the assassins had been dragged down by Don Vito's guards, scarred face bloodied, gold-toothed grin silenced. The youngest had vanished into the night, swallowed by sirens and rain. Lucia stood among the wreckage, chest heaving, gown torn at the hem. Her hands still trembled from the moment she had pulled Don Vito down, saving his life. Slowly, the man himself rose. His coat was dusted with glass shards, his cigar gone cold, but his eyes burned with something sharper than fire. He crossed the ruined hall, boots crunching over broken crystal, and stopped before her. "You should be dead," he said, voice low but steady. "Yet here you stand. And I do because of you." For a heartbeat she thought he might dismiss her, cast her, back into invisibility. Instead, he extended his hand, not to a servant, but to an equal. "There are men I've trusted for years who failed me tonight," he went on. "But you, ragazza, you didn't. Family is not blood alone. Family is trust." The words weighed heavy, dangerous, but they carried something else, too. Respect. Lucia met his gaze, feeling the whispers of doubt from a lifetime pressing at her back. Outsider, nobody, just the help. Yet here, in the wreckage of marble and smoke, those whispers no longer bound her. "I won't be controlled," she said, voice raw but unshaken. "If I stand with you, it's because I choose to, not because you own me." A faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Then perhaps you'll outlive us all." She didn't take his hand. Instead, she bent and picked something from the floor, a shard of glass from a shattered wine goblet. It glittered crimson in the light, stained with spilled champagne and blood, the same image that had haunted her since the restaurant, the night it all began. She held it for a moment, then tucked it into her palm like a keepsake, not of fear, but of transformation. The heavy doors creaked open, dawn spilling pale light into the ruined hall. The storm had passed, leaving the world washed clean, fragile and new. Lucia stepped into it. Her heels clicked against marble, steady now, every step echoing with the truth she carried. She was no longer invisible, no longer just the girl who poured wine and disappeared into silence. She was Lucia, the woman who had overheard death, faced it, and walked through it alive. The city stretched before her, glistening with rain. She didn't look back. She didn't need to, because dignity wasn't something she had to beg for anymore. It was something she had claimed. And the question she left in her wake lingered heavier than any gunshot. Would you have risked everything for a truth you overheard?